Brothers and sisters, greetings, all blessings to the Most High. This is Black Mountain Hotep. How y'all doing? I'm going to be uploading a video on Sunday. It's going to be about accountability in the black community. Any black people, and I am only interested in the comments of black people for this particular video. Any black people who have ideas about how to increase accountability amongst each other in our worst areas, please send them to me. Give me anything, and I will gladly include that in my message. As a former felon, I spent 5.5 years in prison, and I know quite a bit about accountability. But there's a whole lot more that I could learn. Obviously, I'm a young man. I'm only 32. I got a lot of life, hopefully, to live, if God blesses me so. So. With that being said, like I said, if you guys could, if you could do that for me, I'd appreciate that. So I'm going to preface this by saying I'm not a Democrat. The people I speak with, we're not Democrats. Most black Americans that I focus on typically aren't even voters. They're undecided. The ones who are Democrats, I would always suggest, before we even have a conversation about this, let's have a conversation about why we shouldn't even be Democrats in the first place, why liberalism has failed us. So that would be the very first thing I would do for those people. But for the ones watching this video, I am not a Democrat, so get that out of your mind as you perceive everything I'm about to say. Okay? So my issue here is the dangers of rhetoric on black youth and white youth perception of black people. Okay, the reason I frame it in that way is because this is really not about adults. I say that because despite everything that is being said out there, despite all of the language that is being used, the majority of voting adults hopefully have well-working minds, and they can kind of make up their own decisions. So this is really focusing on the younger crowd, and this is my stress on this subject is on the younger crowd. Okay, see, as a young man, all right, wasn't that long ago that I was privy to that I was at the whims of everybody's opinion. As a black man, as a young black man, I'm gonna provide some context to that. So, if you are a black boy, and society tells you that black men are inherently dangerous, then, as a black boy, your only thought is, I'm surrounded by dangers, and I am also a danger. It is reflected in our hip-hop. So anyone who says that that's not true has never listened to a single album ever. So we'll stop it right there with that. So as a black child, if that is the constant perception, then I will grow to either hate myself, my color, my people. Do you get where I'm going with this? All right. As an adult, it's a lot harder to manipulate me like that. But as a child, it is way easy. And as we know, fatherlessness was and is a problem in the black community. And we have been doing our damnedest to combat it. And it has been evident that the establishment, that the Democrats and Republicans have been doing their damnedest to not give a shit. So I say that because no one is pointing out that we're actually out here trying our best to lift each other up. No one pointed out the brothers in Chicago marching down the streets. No one pointed that out. No one is pointing out the brothers who are writing literature and sending them out to young brothers every day, trying to show them how to use their money right. No one's pointing that out. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we have demagogues. We have so-called black demagogues. Demagogues, I said demagogues. We have so-called black demagogues out there whose only priority is ensuring that the white American voter believes that the black community commits most of the crime, and that's how we prefer it. That we're not here to do anything about that. That we want to, that really we want to concern ourselves with racism more than we want to concern ourselves with violence. That we want to concern ourselves with racism more than we want to concern ourselves with fatherlessness, with mass incarceration, with drug problems. You see where I'm getting here? We got demagogues whose sole job is to enforce the perception of white society, enforce the negative perception white society has on black society. Sounds like a loaded statement, what I just said. You want to point to me where that's not true? You want to show me where that's not true? Do you want to show me where Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum are for black people, and where you want to give me overwhelming proof where they are using their following to promote black empowerment? Because what I am seeing, and I follow them, what I am seeing is the opposite. What I am seeing is Candace Owens being an apologist for white supremacy. What I am seeing is Brandon Tatum being an apologist for the use of foul language, being an apologist for the use of the rhetoric that black people have less intelligence, for being an apologist for the use of racism against us. Because that's what it is. See, one of the popular tactics of the GOP, of MAGA, is to say, well, it's the Dems that are the real racists. It's the Dems. It's the Dems. That's all y'all got. Y'all one-trick ponies with that. But it's not true, because Neely Fuller told us that white supremacy takes both sides of an argument. What makes you think white supremacy would allow itself to die after civil rights? Which was a farce, by the way. What makes you think that white supremacy would just roll over? I'll give you a moment. Give me some reasons. You can't. You can't, because there are none. But because there are none, and because black people, because we have reached a time in the world where information is so freely dispensed that young black youth can figure out the truth easily, that older black youth can figure out the manipulations that they were privy to easily, because we live in that time, the establishment has had to find new ways to attack us. They have had to find new ways to attack the black man and the black woman and the black child. Straight up. And the new way is to use the black face to tell us that the white man is peaceful now. That the white man has put it all down. Literally. To tell us that white supremacy then gave up. White supremacy then rolled over. That white supremacy was like, you know what? We don't want to live in our gated communities alone anymore. We want y'all in there. That's what white supremacy wants. We want brothers in the gated community. Just as we want the Fresh Prince. That's what the GOP has done now. They have seen that the tactics no longer lie in the base manipulation, because the base manipulation is hard to produce. So now they have to go to the complex manipulation. They can't use the old guys no more. They can't use the old faces. Roland Martin can't do nothing for the Dems. See what I'm saying? I'm using him as a universal example between Republicans and Democrats. Roland Martin is a face that you can pretty much put on both sides, because he is a older Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum. He is an evolved version of them, or de-evolved. Really, they're all troglodytes. But he is a version of them for Democrats. Spitting talking points that lead undecided black voters astray so that they don't actually see the truth of the matter. Brothers and sisters, if you want to understand white supremacy, then you have to understand its full workings, all right? And in order to do that, you have to revisit the literature that we have kind of disparaged You have to revisit the literature that we keep spitting out of our mouths over and over. We're like broken records, those of us in the Hotep and in the conscious community. We're like broken records, man. Get you some The Destruction of Black Civilization. That's a book. It's written by Chancellor Williams. You need to get you that book. Read it with your eyes. Get the book on Amazon. Come on, a couple days. Wait a week. Read it. If you don't got money, order it. On YouTube. Audiobook. While you working. Instead of listening to music while you sitting on the block, listen to a book. Listen to Neely Fuller. Talk about the intricacies of white supremacy. Sorry. Listen to Francis Cresswell sing. Hold up, I'm about to show y'all something real quick, so that y'all know that I'm not just preaching bullshit. You see what I'm saying? That y'all know that this is really what it's about out here. Man, get y'allself the keys to the colors, man. Open yourselves up these pages, man. Write. Read these pages. Does some W.E.B. Du Bois. Read some of that. The autobiography of Malcolm X. Read it. Read the words. As a matter of fact, if you hit the autobiography of Malcolm X, I want you to highlight when he talks about when he got his first conch. All right. Highlight when he talks about specifically how he feels about seeing black people go through so much pain to be accepted by white society. Okay? Because physically we do this, and we do this mentally. You understand? Mentally, we go through a lot of pain. We go through a lot of mental anguish to be accepted by white society. All right? And the problem is that some of us don't have the genes of cowards. Some of us black people don't have the genes of cowards. Some of us black people have the genes of slaves who revolted. We have the genes of slaves who did not want to be slaves. Some of us have those genes. And so when we are trapped in that mental mind state, sometimes we outwardly react. And as men, that can be manifested as violence. As black men, sometimes we manifest our aversion to the system of white supremacy through violence. And unfortunately, that violence is sometimes carried out on each other. So, like I said, we'll have that talk tomorrow. But right now, this talk is the most important one of the day. So, brothers and sisters, I need you to go back and I need you to hit up this literature. I need you to read, listen, write, meditate. If you feel stressed because of your environment, once you start feeling the pressures of any system, it doesn't even have to be white supremacy. It could be any form of supremacy that you perceive to be it. We don't even have to call it that. Let's not call it that, because it's not always that. Sometimes you just perceive a system a way that it shouldn't be perceived. That's why it's important to go back and read Neely Fuller and Dr. Welsing's work, because they'll actually lay out where the supremacy lies and where it doesn't lie, so that you can separate the two, so that you're not throwing stones at so that you're not throwing stones at the wrong targets, so that you're hitting the right target. Okay? That's why it is important. So meditate. Meditate, because when you have these stresses and you do not express them, then they manifest themselves by bad choices. They manifest themselves by violence. They manifest themselves in many ways. Physiologically, you get sick on the inside. You get tired. You lose your appetite. You perceive danger where there isn't, and you forget to see danger where there is, because you're so wrapped up in a system you have yet to understand. That's why it's important to meditate. Get these things down out of your brain. Put it on paper. Put it on paper. And use it. Use it. Black people, what we'll find is that we'll free ourselves just by that form of meditation. You'll free yourself just by reflecting on the stress you felt at the perceived discrimination at the workplace. You'll find that freedom. You understand? That's why it's important to meditate. Because these demagogues, this Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum, they're not speaking to us. They're not speaking to us. They're not speaking to you, black people. Brother, sister, mother, son, daughter, father, grandmother, grandfather, cousin, uncle, all of y'all. They not talking to y'all. They talking to the white man. And the white man's perception of who we are. That's who they're talking to. Think about this. They're talking to the perception of who we are. I want you to just scroll down, pop up online, and scroll down one of their feeds. One of their iconic demagogue feeds. Tweets, rather. And I want you to look at the comments. All right? Scroll and look at, I know that they advise against this, but I advise against this if it's your job to be a social media influencer, maybe. I don't know. But for the purposes of understanding what you are up against, pop onto one of these tweets and scroll the feed. And read the comments of the white people versus the comments of the black people. All right? Separate the differences. I do it all the time just to make sure that I'm not throwing stones at the wrong target. Okay? Roll down these tweets, look at these comments, and see how the white people think about you. See how these MAGA supporters who love you, who want you on their side, who are so Donald Trump is for the blacks. We are the blacks to them still. The blacks. Remember that. We are not even people. Let me tell y'all something. Let me give y'all a little piece of information. Let me open your minds up. I'm done with this. Let me open your minds up real quick, all right? When we say we're black and they go, it's not about being black, brother, it's American. Black people y'all been forcing this black thing on us, man. You can't give up the color. When I was filling out applications, did I ever fill out the box that said American? Or did I have to fill out the box that said black? You fill out two, American and black, because the government has a distinction. The government has to separate your ass from being black and from American. And just to make sure that you ain't tricking them, they got to make sure that there's a white box so they can go, oh, okay, there's a white man, there's a black man, they're all American. If we was just American, then it would be American and immigrant in that box. On your birth certificate, what is does it say American? American? That's right. That is the distinction that was created for us. All right. We have had to be black, for the sake of you. For so long until we decided to be black for the sake of ourselves. And for the right reasons. And whenever we enforce that, the correct way to, or not, I wouldn't say the correct way, whenever we try to assert that, it becomes a serious issue. It becomes a serious issue. But it is the distinction that you created, and we will not drop it at the whim of the accuser. And that is how that is. We will not drop it at the whim of the accuser. I will not, and I know many black Americans who stand, sit, walk, who listen and look at this screen, who hear my voice, who hear the voices of their parents, who hear their own voices, who would never drop that distinction at the behest of a white man or white woman wearing a MAGA hat, supporting Donald Trump, or supporting a Democrat, or just themselves. You don't have that right. You do not have that right to ask us to give that up. So do not stand and ask for it. Period. And do not tell us that we are the ones who created it. We are the ones who gave it power. And it is power that you fear. It is the power that you fear that has led you to put in charge, to put in front of us Candace Owens and Brandon Tatum to be our leadership council. To be the voices. The evil council. That's what they are. The evil council. Y'all seen that movie? It's fucking ridiculous. Because that's what it is. Like, they're a bunch of supervillains. They're a bunch of black supervillains. I see Candace Owens and she good looking too. She's a very good looking woman. And I see her in like a black superhero costume, but she's got like a black power fist, and the fist is broken in half, and there's blood spurting out, and it's in the hand of a white palm, and it's on her chest, and she's like, white supremacy is dead. No. That's how I view her, because that is how she speaks of us. And then she like pretends that she bounces around in our communities as one of us. Brandon Tatum, you are not one of us. No black man would ever drag his people like that. We know the ills of our people, but we never would have the gall to display the ills of our people in contrast to racism, to the racism that is dispensed at will in so many places, unrecorded, recorded, unwritten and written. You're an idiot. A fool. Both of you. And you cause so much damage. This is a time where words reach more voices. Like, when I was young, it was only, you're outside most of the time. So it's what people talked about you, it's what you heard in the neighborhood, it's what you heard from other people, how they looked at you, and it's what you kind of heard on the TV. But really, that was it. You could escape it, but it was hard. It's impossible to escape it now. You have to shelter your children in order to escape it now, because it is a walking thing now. Like I said before, like I said in my previous video, I was in prison with many white supremacists who did not have life sentences, who were not Democrats, and who were equally. I'm at a balance of white supremacists in prison who had their ideology and respected me because they had no choice, because we were in prison. And it's politics, homie. Like, that's what you do. But when you get up out of prison, do you think that they're going to dispense with that same peaceful ideology? Or do you think that they're going to go back to that Edward Norton shit? I'm sorry, Edward Norton. You know what I mean? That American History X shit. Like, for real. That stuff doesn't disappear. Richard Spencer is still alive, spitting that shit. Come on now with that. That is a dangerous game that these two black comedians are playing right now. That these two black comedians are on the live streams and on the Twitter and on the television, that they're in these conferences, that they're playing right now, that they're working with. Because, like, if you got thick skin, if you're black and you got thick skin and you can keep your mouth shut, if you're black and you got thick skin and you can keep your mouth shut, just pop in on one of these safe spaces and listen to a conversation amongst these so-called MAGA supporters. Not the spaces where you see the black people and the white people. Pop into the spaces where you just see the white ones. Not physically. Pop online. If you got thick skin and you're a black American, pop online in these spaces. And you tell me You tell me where we lie. You tell me where the lines are drawn. And then you come on, get back to me. You come on, get back to me with the answer. All right?